learned a lot about leadership and making a movement, then let's watch a movement happen start to finish in under 3 minutes and dissect some lessons. First, of course, a leader needs the guts to stand alone and look ridiculous. But what he's doing is so simple, it's almost instructional. This is key. You must be easy to follow. Now here comes the first follower with a crucial role. He publicly shows everyone else how to follow. Notice how the leader embraces him as an equal. So it's not about the leader anymore, it's about them, plural. Notice how he's calling to his friends to join in. So it takes guts to be a first follower. You stand out and you brave ridicule yourself. Being a first follower is an underappreciated form of leadership. The first follower transforms a lone nut into a leader. If the leader is the flint, the first follower is the spark that really makes the fire. Now here's the second follower. This is a turning point. It's proof the first has done well. Now it's not a lone nut and it's not two nuts. 3 is a crowd and a crowd is news. A movement must be public. Make sure outsiders see more than just the leader. Everyone needs to see the followers because new followers emulate followers, not the leader. Now here come 2 more people, then 3 more immediately. Now we've got momentum. This is the tipping point, and now we have a movement. As more people jump in, it's no longer risky. If they were on the fence before, there's no reason not to join in now. They won't stand out, they won't be ridiculed, and they will be part of the in crowd if they hurry. And over the next minute you'll see the rest who prefer to stay part of the crowd, because eventually they'd be ridiculed for not joining. And ladies and gentlemen, that is how a movement is made. So let's recap what we've learned. If you are a version of the shirtless dancing guy, all alone, remember the importance of nurturing your first few followers as equals, making everything clearly about the movement, not you. Be public, be easy to follow. But the biggest lesson here, did you catch it? Leadership is overglorified. Yes, it started with the shirtless guy, and he'll get all the credit, but you saw what really happened. It was the first follower that transformed a lone nut into a leader. There's no movement without the first follower. See, we're told that we all need to be leaders, but that would be really ineffective. The best way to make a movement, if you really care, is to courageously follow and show others how to follow. When you find a lone nut doing something great, have the guts to be the first person to stand up and join in.
My hero, Jeff Bezos, oftentimes invention requires a long-term willingness to be misunderstood. If you are leading an innovation, people will spit on you, will say that you're a crazy idiot, and the line between insanity and genius is really, really thin. Everybody has bashed him, every financial analyst, every journalist on this planet bashed on Jeff Bezos for 20 years. Now we're all building the Amazon model. No, stronger. If Amazon announces to go into healthcare, that healthcare market loses 30 billion in market cap value just because Amazon announces it will enter that field. So innovation means that you have to be solid, straight back. People will probably think you're crazy. Stick in there.
What's in your wallet? Strange question for him to ask, you think? A little bit personal. Well, in mine, it's just cards. I rarely use cash these days. More so, one of my cards, my Revolut card, actually allows me to spend my XRP on everyday stuff in the shops. Granted, it does have to convert it back to fiat at the moment in order for the shop to actually accept the payment. But my point here is this. 10 years ago, my wallet was mainly filled with cash. 5 years ago, it was mainly cards, Visa, MasterCard, etc. And now it's those same cards, along with one that also uses crypto. So in 5 years' time, will we be using predominantly crypto? I think it's very possible. Why do I think that? Well, the XRP virus has got me. I think it may have you too. But has it got everyone you know yet? Probably not, but it will. Ooh, this all sounds a bit sinister. I promise you though, it is far from that. Welcome guys, hope you're all good. So cryptocurrency, in particular XRP, you're probably invested in it in some form or another, or you wouldn't be watching this video, right? 2018 has been an interesting year so far for crypto in general, after having experienced that boom at the end of 2017 and the subsequent crash which left a lot of investors licking their wounds. That was all part of a natural sequence of events moving crypto slowly into the mainstream. And we're now starting to see a gradual rise in its popularity, along with it slowly starting to become accepted generally. Before I get into it though, my usual reminder that I'm not a financial advisor and the views that I express in this video are my own. Cryptocurrency is a risky investment which could go down as well as up, and of course you could lose all of your investment. Please do take professional advice before parting with your money. Okay, I came across an interesting article today on Coin Insider. I'll link to it in the description to give you the opportunity to have a look at it and read it for yourself. It headlined, Yahoo Finance launches cryptocurrency trading features. At first then, perhaps just another article about a company launching trading for cryptos. Yes, but this is Yahoo Finance, the 6th most visited website. Yep, you heard that right, the 6th most visited website. So that's a heck of a lot of visits from a heck of a lot of people. Yahoo.com made the announcement last week, stating that it had begun a partnership with API developer TradeIt in order to offer the feature of cryptocurrency trading for users within Yahoo Finance. Currently, they're only offering the option to trade Bitcoin, Ethereum and Litecoin, but they have hinted that Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum Classic and EOS will be added very soon. So no XRP yet, but that's not essentially that relevant in the message that I'm saying here. What sums it up is the tweet mentioned in the article from Anthony Pompolino, who, if you don't know, is the founder of Morgan Creek Digital and a pretty prominent guy in the crypto world. And he seemed pretty excited about the news, saying you can now buy Bitcoin and Ethereum and Litecoin on Yahoo Finance. The virus is spreading. Anthony's last 4 words in that tweet literally say it all. The virus is spreading. I love that. It's so true. Cryptocurrency in general, but in particularly XRP, like anything that has changed the world in the past, is having to go through various stages before it sees ultimate success. The first stage is that they ignore you. People will simply not, as a general rule, accept anything new. Perhaps it's seen as a threat. Well, XRP is certainly seen as a threat to some. Swift, for one, I'm sure, are not overjoyed at what Ripple are doing. Look back at any of the great inventions that changed the world and you will see that they were at first completely ignored. It took time for people to sit up and take notice. However, once they do, then comes stage 2. They laugh at you. Still frightened at the possibilities and implications a new invention, or in this case a new technology, can have, but accepting that it won't be ignored, the obvious thing to do is laugh at it, right? Perhaps that's what all the negative media has been doing about Ripple, XRP and many other cryptocurrencies, or perhaps it was market manipulation, but you can check out my other videos for more on that. In fact, we can probably all relate to a point in our life where we've been a little bit threatened by something and our natural defense is to laugh at it. Trouble is, when it's something that is set to change the world, it doesn't go away and it won't be made a laughing stock. And that's when stage 3 kicks in. They fight you. In the case of XRP, this stage has probably not yet come with full impact, but it will. Swift will not just sit back and say to Ripple, "Ah, yeah, fair play. Your global payment system is way better than ours, so just take the multi-trillion-dollar industry that we currently monopolise and you have it for yourselves." Oh no, they will not do that. They will fight, and they will fight hard. However, the technology behind Ripple will surpass itself. And that's when the final stage will kick in, which is this. You win. Now, I would suggest that XRP is still at stage 1 or 2 just now. That's still very early days, which is why I still think it's an absolutely golden time to get into it. The majority of people are either completely unaware of it, or they're ignoring it and possibly even laughing at it, saying it will never work. Us as investors in XRP, of course, want to win. That's why we invest in it, is it not? However, the key to doing really well is to get in at the beginning. Even though XRP's been around for 5 years or just over 5 years now, we're still at the beginning. This is not an overnight thing, but think about the day when Ripple does run the global payments transfer system and they're doing it using XRapid or possibly another XRP driven system that they haven't even released yet. Think about what that will do to the XRP USD value, and think about what that will do for your net worth. The truth is, of course, that we don't know what the future holds, hence why investing in cryptocurrency and XRP is a risk. However, it's a risk that I, for one, am prepared to take. The signs are all there for XRP to succeed. The global finance system is literally on the cusp of changing beyond recognition. And when that virus starts to spread to the masses, which it will, the sky is literally the limit.
Your goal is to be the largest online, and you are, retailer in the world. Beyond that, what's the goal?
Well, our mission is Earth's most customer-centric company.
But I don't know what that means.
Well, I'll give you an example. Right after World War II, Morita-san, the guy who founded Sony, set as the mission for Sony that they were going to make Japan known for quality. You have to remember, this was a time when Japan was known for cheap copycat products. And Morita-san said, he didn't say we're going to make Sony known for quality. He said we're going to make Japan known for quality. He chose a mission for Sony that was bigger than Sony. And when we talk about Earth's most customer-centric company, we have a similar idea in mind. We want other companies to look at Amazon and see us as a standard bearer for obsessive focus on the customer, as opposed to obsessive focus on the competitor. So that's one of the reasons we work on differentiated products. It's one of the reasons we take a long-term viewpoint on things. You can't really do the right thing for customers if you're short-term oriented. And if you're going to invent new things, you've also got to be able, and this goes along with long-term orientation, you've got to be willing to endure a lot of criticism. You know, if you're going to put, Kindle is a good example, if you're going to put your back into reinventing a 500-year-old industry, some folks are going to get ornery.
It was also feared at one time, those people who had your stock, that once Walmart, for example, got serious about being online, they were going to blow you away. Why didn't that happen?
Well, I think it's because we did a good job for our customers. So, you know, you go back in time and we've been called Amazon.toast.
Right, I remember.
Amazon.con, Amazon.bomb. You know, this is all like in the first 3 years of our existence.
Sure, yeah.
And that's part of what I'm talking about, the willingness to be misunderstood. If you're going to do things, we lay out what we're doing and we tell people, you know, how we think about things.
What is up, good people? Jungle Inc. here, and I just got done reviewing Blockchain to Banking with Brad Garlinghouse and Michael Arrington. And before I start breaking down this poor excuse for an interview, I want to read a quote that a good friend of mine just sent me on DM on Twitter. "Only the strong will survive, my friend. Holding tight to my beliefs and dreams. XRP to zero or XRP to fruition." And I gotta tell you, I couldn't sum it up any better myself. To do anything great on this scale, you have to be kind of crazy. To think you could start the most valuable company, public company in the world from your garage. Just a couple dudes building computers. You have to be nuts to think you could build a multi-billion-dollar enterprise from a dorm room. There's got to be something a little off with your thinking. And also the thinking of the original investors that put their hard-earned money into these various pursuits. The journey is long, the journey is perilous, but to the victor goes the spoils. You have to be bold, you have to believe in a vision. And I gotta tell you, I felt Brad did the best that he could. Sitting there on stage with a pair of clowns, with this straight punk in his leather jacket, clearly going through a midlife crisis. He answered the questions honestly and clearly, but I asked myself, what is the point? Why is Brad sitting there with these peasants explaining basic principles that by this time, any commoner, any moron has a full grasp on. This fellow in his leather jacket was obviously being nasty and just throwing jabs. And Michael Arrington wasn't much better, even though he disguised his attacks a little better. What is the point? We don't have to sell XRP to the masses any longer. Sometimes I wish Brad had a nasty side to him. I can only imagine if he would have done the same thing to Steve Jobs. He would have belittled these two idiots, made them feel like next to nothing. But that's not Brad's style. He's there to act like a professional. He's not used to dealing with savages, with everyday derelicts. He's used to sitting with bankers, professionals that want to talk facts and statistics and business and making money. But the one key attribute that Brad has is he's able to keep Ripple in line and keep that laser focus and keep the train going down the tracks towards that ultimate goal. And that's all we care about. We've seen Coil go live. It'll take a little time to grow that enterprise and spread the word and show people what a great service and how revolutionary Coil really is. But all Brad has to worry about is getting XRapid off the ground and running. This is Ripple's crowning achievement. This is the game changer that's going to turn everything on its head. And I can't tell you how big of an effect it'll have on the price of XRP from day one. But once people start using XRapid and see the cost savings, it's going to grow at an exponential pace. The results will speak for themselves. The SEC problems that these interviewers kept bringing up will be solved. Ripple has the finest minds in the business, the best attorneys. This is going to get handled. It's been designed from the start to work with regulators, to work with governments, to work with bankers, and be in compliance with regulations. That's where we win. We win on the side of business. We win on the side of logic. We win on the side of government regulations. How hard is that to understand? We need to stop explaining to the general trolls and morons like we saw on that stage today. Guess what? No Bentley time for you, whatever your name is. Put your money in some other project, but don't come crying to Jungle Link when XRP moonshots and you're left behind. And this low price is unbelievable. At the beginning of this year, I felt $1,200 per XRP was a realistic price. That would get the job done for me. That would put me in the big leagues. But we've been sub $1 for so long. I've got so much more XRP than I ever imagined. I don't need it to hit a fraction of that to put me in the big leagues. But you know what? I'm going to hold it that long just to say, I told you so. Because it's much more than just dollars and cents at this point. Now, at the end of the day, if I lose every dollar I put into XRP, and for me right now at this point in my life, it's a significant portion of my current net value. I'm not going to lie and say, you know what, it's not going to hurt. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt a lot. But it doesn't matter because I'll get you on the flip side. My success in life will not be limited by XRP. Our success as a collective community will not be limited by XRP. I can tell you that for sure. This is one of the smartest collections of individuals you'll find. They're able to look at very complicated issues and break it down. We take this for granted, but it's a very complicated issue, and I think everyone out there has a great grasp on what's going on. You're able to take these cutting-edge ideas and evaluate them versus finance and global economics. I'm telling you, give yourself a pat on the back. If you're part of the XRP community, you're part of an elite group of individuals And you can apply this to anything in your life. Now, with that being said, with David Schwartz and Brad Garlinghouse and this whole team, just an amazing group of people. People we don't even hear of, like Arthur Brito. Come on, we're just getting silly here. I can't imagine a scenario where XRP doesn't change the world and make us all incredibly wealthy. Don't listen to people like this TechCrunch group of bozos. Stay true to the vision. Keep your focus, just like the Ripple team is doing. They have laser focus. The journey's not going to be easy, or everyone would do it. But if you stay true to that vision, and you hold to your principles, which are something over dollars and cents, I personally believe the rewards will be great. Greater than I'm willing to publicly admit. And we'll be able to sit back and watch interviews like this and laugh. Laugh at the obscene ignorance that was put on display today. I'm going to go ahead and link this interview down below in case you didn't catch it. And I hope you can watch it and you can let me know what you thought down below. Did they try to ambush Brad Garlinghouse? And even though I personally wish he would have got goalie with him, he would have come out gangster. In reality, he did the correct thing. He answered their questions with professionalism and with facts. And he's putting everyone on notice. Only the strong will survive. As always, please like, please subscribe. The revolution will be televised. All around the globe. There's no denying it. XRP is the standard.
Thanks for joining us, everyone.
You have
Well,
TechCrunch branded water now?
we have TechCrunch branded water,
Come
yes.
a long way since your years.
Yes, quite a lot has changed.
Shit has changed since I was
There's
here.
even coffee backstage. It's incredible. We're going to sort of set up the conversation a little bit. You know, when Satoshi Nakamoto invented Bitcoin during the last recession, he, she, or they, who knows who they were, imagined a completely decentralized world with the Bitcoin blockchain, but it required constant mining, obviously, to unearth its cryptocurrency. Now, Ripple, represented here by CEO Brad, is a real-time gross settlement system, currency exchange, and remittance network created by Ripple Labs, which is a fintech company. Now, it's built on a consensus ledger and the cryptocurrency known as XRP. So, hello. Now, when Ripple decided to pre-mine its XRP currency, it pre-mined it, okay? So it's already all mined. And then it instituted a handful of centralized nodes to create a highly scalable network. Fintech really needs scalability. However, here's what happened. All hell broke loose because crypto libertarians who believe in decentralization effectively thought this is a ridiculous idea. Then along comes Mr. Arrington, fresh from having leaving venture capital fund Crunch Fund, launched his own crypto fund, Arrington XRP, so named because the fund was built on XRP using Ripple, using XRP, and using Ripple to transfer money globally at speed between LPs, companies funding, etc. But the crypto libertarians to this day rail against Ripple and XRP and anyone who will deal with them, including Arrington XRP. So, Brad, some of these crypto libertarians, some of them have actually literally called you the devil. Are you?
Lucifer.
Lucifer.
No, I'm not the devil.
Can you prove it?
Look, I think it's an interesting place to start, in part because I think there are a lot of religious zealots in the crypto space. And I think people believe things in a way that you would kind of describe as religious zealotry. You know, Ripple took a contrarian view pretty early in our evolution and said, look, if you want to really revolutionize the way payments work, if you really want to revolutionize the way transactions work in this regard, It's not going to happen by everybody giving up their existing infrastructure and just switching to something new. As much as I am actually a bull on Bitcoin, the Bitcoin blockchain is not, there's not going to be one ledger to rule them all. Ripple invented a series of technologies built upon the XRP ledger that allows institutions, banks, and even in some cases governments to take advantage of these technologies and dramatically accelerate the nature of transactions.
He's fully into talking points now.
Look, I'm trying to explain, the thing I'm getting to is simply the idea that the people who say that Ripple is somehow, your word, the devil, it's because we're partnering with the man. We decided if you want to enable an internet of value, you got to connect the repositories of value. And the repositories of value are the banks.
Why couldn't the banks have went for a more fully centralized network, though?
Well, to some degree, that's what they use today. I mean, cross-border payments today, which are slow and expensive.
Fully decentralized, I meant to say.
Well, the XRP ledger is fully decentralized. Ripple, the company, cannot control the XRP ledger.
Apart from the fact that you control a handful of nodes.
We control a handful of nodes. But I mean, we control, I think, something around 7% of all of the public nodes on the XRP ledger. So, I mean, in contrast, you have miners in China that control, north of, 3 miners control north of 50% of the Bitcoin blockchain. By any measure, the Bitcoin blockchain is more centralized than the XRP ledger.
Why did you pick XRP as for your fund?
Well, first of all, could I ask something?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm just used to being...
I was worried there were going to be 2 interviewers in one.
Well, no, you could roll back transactions, right, on your ledger? Because you
Absolutely
control all
not.
the nodes, so...
This is one of the FUD kind of misinformation things that people say. Like, Ripple can block a transaction. Not true. Can we roll back a transaction? Not true.
You could, you just would never do that, right?
We actually can't.
Oh, I thought you could.
No.
Oh, I was hoping you could. All right, so I chose...
So is that going to affect your...
I was under the impression that we could... No. So there's 2 answers, both partially true, as to why I went with XRP. The first answer that's partially true is when I decided to do a crypto fund, which was last year, after I made a couple of investments on my own and through Crunch Fund, I naturally went to Brad because we've become very good friends. Not everybody knows this, but TechCrunch was originally sold to AOL and eventually became part of the Verizon behemoth because of Brad. Because he was at AOL, it wouldn't have happened without him. He was the primary person that made that deal happen. Naturally, I'm his friend because he made me wealthy. Not as wealthy as him, but wealthy. And so, and I also like him as a human being. So I went to him
in that
because
order.
he was, yes, in that order. So when I went to him, he was the CEO of Ripple. And so I would talk to him about the fund. And true story, when Brad first joined Ripple, I told him it was the dumbest career move he'd ever made in a long string of bad career moves. And it turns out now he's the 5th richest person in California or something. But I went to him for advice, and he helped. He helped me raise the fund. Although Ripple isn't an LP, he helped me by introducing me to most of our large LPs that hold large amounts of XRP. The other answer, which is also true, is XRP is a fantastic currency to use for, among other things, hedge funds. We need to move a lot of money very quickly. We make investments all over the world. Our LPs come from all over the world. And using banks to move money is a pain in the ass. I mean, it takes a day or 2 to move money around the world. And with XRP, our very first close was 50 million. We moved that money in, and I'm not shitting you, in like 3 seconds. And I think it cost 20 or 30 cents. You really need to think about that.
But that's...
And so it's fantastic to use it for that.
You're moving it using the Ripple protocol, but the problem is that
he used the XRP ledger to do that.
You're using the XRP ledger, but there's an issue here.
I didn't do anything. Somebody else did it. But I just know that the money moved in like that, like literally like that, and it cost nothing. And have you ever sent money in an international wire? I mean,
Yes.
it's a pain in the ass. And then you got to call. Did you get it? And what? No, I didn't get. And it's truly revolutionary.
Well, I mean, you can use, there's lots of startups, TransferWise, etc., that will do that kind of thing. But obviously there are charges, and obviously larger amounts.
You can't PayPal
Can I interject
$50 million.
I think TransferWise is a fabulous company, and they've done some very clever things by hacking the existing system. What TransferWise does is optimize the existing infrastructure and, in effect, hack the system so that you have a better outcome. What Ripple is trying to do is say, look, can we reset the rail? TransferWise loves what we're doing because if we're successful, it makes their job actually easier. there's a lot of companies that spend a lot of time and energy in TransferWise and Currency Cloud are examples that are taking the existing system and saying, how can I put accounts all over the place, and I'm going to have my own effectively ledger within TransferWise to debit and credit so I can make funds available more quickly than otherwise would be the case.
But one of the issues, let's be honest, is that you've come up with a fantastic ability to move money around the planet, but there's also this issue of XRP, the currency, which prices are crashing all over the place. You're trying to get banks to use the actual currency. That some of them are using the Ripple protocol, but they're not using XRP, are they? So how do you address that? In a way, you pre-mined all this currency, made a heck of a lot of money. Let's talk about that. But then now you're trying to get people to use XRP. You're getting Madonna to talk about XRP. You're talking or Ripple, getting Ashton Kutcher to talk about it. I mean, these aren't necessarily the people who staid bankers normally listen to.
Did you have to pay Madonna? I don't know about that.
So a whole bunch of things got conflated in there. So
How do you get
let's
Madonna?
parse that apart. First of all, I actually
Can we
would
please
even
talk about the
argue,
just for 1 second? How does that happen? Is it like the agent, you guys shared a private jet? Like, how do you get
I was
Madonna
trying to answer the question about what's happening to crypto crashes.
Yeah,
Madonna,
Ellen DeGeneres.
Ripple has been very proactive as a company, both its leadership team as well as the company, in being philanthropic. We have supported, we gave $29 million to Donors Choose, which funded by the way, if you don't know Donors Choose, it is one of the most incredible organizations I've ever seen. That allows,
but that's because you had all this crypto left over when you mined it.
Like, I think as a general statement, Silicon Valley doesn't do enough to give back.
Google didn't fund Donors Choose. Lots of companies in Silicon Valley have a lot of money. I mean, that was a true act of generosity.
I've never been, we may be accused of being the devil in terms of how we have partnered with the system. I've never been accused of being the devil for being philanthropic and supporting causes that are actually good for the planet.
Fair comment.
To speak to that.
But what about answering the question about...
I was trying to answer the question. You want to talk about Madonna. You were talking about the crypto crash. First of all, let's level set. 18 months ago, the entire crypto market was worth $20 billion. Today, it's worth $230 billion. Now, granted, in between, it hit about 850 billion, so it's crashed from 850. By any normal measure, if we drew a straight line from 18 months ago to today, you'd say it's been a huge bull market. I also point out, like, there have been, over the last 5 or 6 years, multiple, quote, crashes that have been effectively reconsolidation, and we've seen as utility and problems are solved with these technologies, you're going to see a separation, I think, between those that are purely speculative and those that are actually solving real utility, solving real problems in the marketplace.
Which one are you?
Well, I mean, we've already talked about your own experience of using XRP and using Ripple's technologies to solve real problems.
Which ones are the ones that are a joke in the top 10?
I'm not going there.
Why?
Look, the other thing you talked about...
Yeah, what about EOS?
Why?
What about EOS?
Let's talk about EOS.
Neo?
I will say right, EOS is a huge pile of shit. Do you
know
agree?
What? I will say, one of the projects
You think EOS is a huge pile of shit?
I think that these projects that come out and raise a lot of money, in some cases billions of dollars, are they don't need that much money. And so I always think it's odd. And I think that if you look back at the history of Silicon Valley, there are, as far as I know, 0 examples of companies that have raised massive amounts of funding before they launch a product and being successful. If there's examples, I can't think of them.
Did Ripple donate? Is Ripple an LP in your fund in Arrington XRP?
No.
Did they give you XRP to help start the fund?
Well, no. I mean, you're saying like they're not an investor. Do they just give me a bunch of free XRP? It's a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
I think it's like a marketing expense. It'd be like
No,
how much did Madonna get?
How did much? Yeah, right. So that is marketing.
You are not Madonna.
You're one of the biggest voices in investing.
We're not a charity.
That's just being. Is Madonna? Can I just say?
We didn't give money to Madonna. We gave money to a philanthropic effort around, that Madonna was a champion.
There you go. Okay.
And Ashton Kutcher.
No,
didn't he? Wasn't he?
He was the delivery. I mean, he and Madonna are friends, and so he has been active in that. But
okay. What is it? By the way, what is it with these XRP fanboys on Twitter? You've got you've got a follower called XRP Trump on Twitter. You've got
I like that guy.
A woman called Tiffany Hayden who basically just goes XRP is amazing all the time.
She's fantastic.
What's going on? Are you paying them to shill?
No, that's a little rude. That's a little rude to accuse him of paying.
Well, it's just a question.
It's a fair question. We do not pay. I mean,
It might be a marketing expense.
We have a lot of advocates.
You don't pay them, do you?
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he does.
Why do you think are they just trying to boost the currency?
I think most of what they're doing is correcting the record. They're going out and saying, look, somebody says something, frankly, similar to what you said, which is the XRP ledger is centralized.
Yeah.
It's factually not true.
Okay, let me say something. So this goes to is he the devil as well. So
Sure.
you
need to come back to that. Yeah.
I mean, look, one of the most interesting books I've ever read is Guns, Germs, and Steel, and I'm sure many of you people in this room have read it. And we naturally are tribal, and we form teams. And when you add steroids to that in the form of money, you've got a situation where you have what from the outside looks crazy of everybody forming up in these teams. And I have been sort of de facto named to the XRP team, even though we hold a very small amount of XRP today because our LPs actually want us to diversify. But I'm just sort of I'm sort of named part of that team. And you've got the fanboys for everybody, and they're all the same. I mean, they really are. The fanboys for Bitcoin and the fanboys for XRP are literally the same. I mean, and they're saying almost the same things. And it's just sort of creepy and weird. But some of these people, and some of the ones you named, aren't creepy and weird. They're actually like enthusiasts who've changed their lives and the lives of their family. Mm-hmm. I mean, you mentioned Tiffany. She's like a single mom who has helped raise her children because of her investments in cryptocurrency. That's not a joke. I mean, that's a real thing.
And fair comment. That's fair comment. What about, I mean, one of your views also, your criticisms of Ethereum is that, I mean, it's got a big developer network, and you're trying to boost the amount of developers using XRP with Xspring, this project called Spring or Xspring. It's spelt with an X, but it's called Spring, which you're trying to get developers onto it. It's a bit like Microsoft trying to get developers to develop apps in a way, isn't it? You're trying to boost the market. Do you think?
Well, I mean, look, I think there's lots of people that invest in developer ecosystems.
Yeah.
You know, the observation I'd make about the Ethereum ecosystem today is there's a lot of experimentation. Yeah. There is not a lot of successful deployed, we're solving a real problem.
What's your view about Ethereum? What's your general view?
There's a lot of interesting experiments going on.
And I'll be interested.
Ether? I don't own any Ether.
But you do Bitcoin?
I do. So look, I think one of the mistakes, and Mike likes to make fun of me for lots of things, but one of the things he was talking about backstage is years ago I wrote this thing called the Peanut Butter Manifesto. It was a long time ago, and the thesis was that Yahoo, where I worked at the time, was spreading itself too thin. It was trying to do too many things, serving too many masters, as opposed to really specializing and being the best in the world at something. And I think in many ways what's going on in the crypto land is similar. You have, Ripple has very specifically decided to go very deep in a particular vertical with a clear customer, a clear value proposition, and solving a clear problem.
Yeah.
There's a lot of these things. I mean, look, you read these things. I was meeting with some of the IBM team, and they were talking about using a blockchain to track flower freshness. I don't get it.
Yeah.
First of all, I think a database.
I might be an investor.
More often than not, a database is going to be more efficient than a blockchain, and people use words like blockchain and crypto as catnip for the investors that were up here before us.
That's true.
There's, do you feel that Ripple will try and replace SWIFT in the banking system? Is that?
I hope it does.
Well, look,
something has to improve upon SWIFT. SWIFT it's like we never even got email, right? I mean, it's like we're still using snail mail for everything, and something has to give in that.
I mean, we're going to have the SEC, by the way, at some point. I mean, what would happen, do you think, if the SEC decided to declare XRP a security?
Well, first, to answer that, we got to make sure we understand what is a security, right? A security is something that represents ownership in a company. It gives you rights to dividends, give you rights to governance, things like that. XRP and Ripple are two separate things. We have shareholders in Ripple, the company. We have investors that include Google Ventures. We have banks that have invested. They own shares of Ripple, the company. When you buy XRP, that doesn't give you any rights to the profits or ownership of Ripple, the company. The other thing that's important to understand
so
is...
do you think that's going to, that'll... that's an air gap between you and the SEC?
There's multiple air gaps. The amount of misinformation on this one, I think, is also profound. Mm-hmm. If Ripple, the company, I mean, we have joked, we had an all-hands about a couple months ago, and some people didn't think it was very funny, but we pointed out that if Ripple, the company, shut down tomorrow, the XRP ledger would continue to operate. So if XRP is a security, it's a security of what? Now, one of the other things that people talk about is information asymmetry, that if a company has information that could influence the price, then maybe that is more like a security. The irony there is one of the major drivers of inflection of the price of XRP is Coinbase. The rumors about is Coinbase going to list XRP or not? So does that mean XRP is a security of Coinbase or of Ripple? So look, I think the facts are pretty clear that XRP is not a security, and I think that as time goes by, that'll become clearer. So I don't spend a lot of time worrying about that.
You seem pretty relaxed about it.
I actually am pretty relaxed about it, because I think the facts are on our side.
Mike, you've been doing a ton of traveling as an investor. Now you've famously said that you're devoting the next 10 years or so to crypto and blockchain instead of the old traditional VC model from Crunch Fund. Israel, Singapore, Europe. Do you think the SEC is eventually going to start to regulate this, or
I don't know.
What's your view about how the position they're taking? Have they talked to you, perhaps?
Oh, fucking SEC. So first of all, I got a letter. I invested in a company as a private person last year, not as a fund, and they sent me a subpoena, and it was like literally accusing me of crimes because the CEO of the company had once spoken at a TechCrunch conference years after I left TechCrunch, and like there's some quid pro quo, and like it was like they're actually making like criminal, and my lawyer had to deal with it. I ended up spending about $30,000 getting him to fuck off. And like, so first of all, I'm a libertarian. I don't like the government in general, but the SEC, forgetting my personal issues with them because it was just money, I'm actually like irate because the SEC is single-handedly fucking this industry in the US. And so we have a few good US investments. Proppy's one, I'm wearing their t-shirt. Another one is Reserve, a company in Oakland, and a couple of others. But 80 to 90% of our investments are in Asia, Europe, and Israel right now because there are actually countries where there's enough regulatory certainty that that entrepreneurs feel safe starting token companies there, blockchain companies there. Here they don't. There's so much regulatory uncertainty, and then add to that the tax burden and the visa burdens of coming here, and then our current federal government's stance on immigration in general. They're just saying fuck it, and they're staying in Singapore or Israel or Europe instead of coming here and starting companies. It is the SEC needs to get their act together, because if they had done that with the internet in 94, 95, TechCrunch and this, none of us would be here. We'd all be living in Shanghai or somewhere else, wherever managed to get their act together. So when the SEC person comes on stage, first of all, I'd kick them out of the conference. But if they actually come up on stage, I'd ask them, like, do you realize you're single-handedly like wrecking the next stage of technology development, and how do you feel about that? And see what she says. So, yeah.
Well,
so I have somewhat.
We'll ask.
But I think Mike feels strongly about that one.
I really feel like fairly strongly about that.
Look, I will. Mike and I agree on some of that. We actually disagree on some of it, and he and I have talked about this.
Well, you're a Trump supporter, right? So that's probably the big.
Listen, in California, you can get shot for saying things like that.
Would you like to confirm or deny?
Look, the thing I would say.
You look like a Republican, right? You just look. Actually, I know you don't like Trump. Yeah.
I can neither confirm nor deny. Look, on the topic of the SEC, the one thing I will say is there are unequivocally bad actors in the ICO ecosystem. There have been frauds, there have been massive scams. Hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars have been heisted. And if anything, I'm surprised the SEC hasn't been more aggressive going after some of those bad actors.
Like who?
Now, that doesn't take away from Mike's point.
What is the hesitation of naming them?
The clarity would be very helpful, and I agree with him that there is a risk that a lot of this development ends up non-US, and the impact on the United States economy for having the internet that we think of today being very US-centric in many ways has been very, very positive to the United States. I'll talk positively about some. There's a project that I find very interesting called Augur. I'm very interested in what's going to happen there. I'm intrigued.
Do you like Trump because he's about tearing up all the regulation?
Look, Ripple as a company wants to work with regulators around the
yes
world.
Yes or no?
No, it's when he's going to talking points. He's like, no, not going to answer that question.
My public donations to political figures is documented on the internet.
fair comment. Well, unfortunately, I don't have access, so we'll have to check.
Somebody can Google it.
Michael, finally, you famously moved from Crunch. You founded TechCrunch. Heavens above. Thank you, by the way. Thank you for hiring me.
And you are the oldest.
I am about 3,000 years old. Yes.
I didn't mean how old you are. You actually have been here longer than any. You're actually one of only a couple people who were here when I was here.
A couple of people left of us. Yes, still going.
Yeah.
Completely.
Drove the rest.
We
love it.
It's good that there's still a couple people here.
We love what we do.
Because now there's so many of you.
There's a lot of us.
And I don't even know, like.
There's a question in here somewhere.
You left TechCrunch. You founded Crunch Fund. Famously, I remember the Unplayed Blogger T-shirts, and you founded Crunch Fund. And last year, you founded Arrington XRP. Really, all boots into crypto. But I mean, how's that relationship with Crunch Fund now? Did you leave on good terms? Any bad blood?
Oh yeah, no, everything's fine. I just think that I wanted to do crypto. My partner didn't as much, and I believed in this, obviously. It wasn't just that I believe in crypto. It's also I'm a little tired of the VC game. It's very different. It's all new players in crypto. It's younger, fresher, more interesting, people from all over the world. The VC game has gotten very, very tiring to me. Also, and I could go into that, but I won't. But also, crypto moves much more quickly. Those of you in the audience, who in here considers themselves a crypto person? So you, actually more than I thought, like the crypto world moves like significantly faster than the normal tech world, which already moves quickly. But a few months feels like a year or two in crypto. And I actually like that. I think it's keeping me young, it's keeping me excited, and it's just a lot more fun. So, yeah.
So, Brad, finally, are you actually the richest person in California now?
I have no idea even how to start answering that question.
It's a very rude question.
I apologize. Well, I shall leave it there then.
I think Larry Ellison, I think he must win that. I think Larry or Sergey or the two Larrys, Larry Page.
They're probably the ones. Yeah.
I have no idea. Yeah.
Guys, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
It's really good to be idealistic, but be prepared to be misunderstood. Anyone working on a big vision is going to get called crazy, even if you end up right. Anyone taking on a complex problem is going to get blamed for not fully understanding it, even though it's impossible to know everything up front. Anyone taking initiative will always get criticized for moving too fast, because there's always someone who wants to slow you down. In our society, we often don't take on big things because we're so afraid of making mistakes that we ignore all the things wrong today if we do nothing. The reality is, anything we do today is going to have some issues in the future. But that can't stop us from getting started. So what are we waiting for? It is time for our generation-defining great works. How about stopping climate change before we destroy the planet and getting millions of people involved, manufacturing and installing solar panels? How about curing all diseases and getting people involved by asking volunteers to share their health data, track their health data, and share their genomes? You know, today, our society spends more than 50 times as much treating people who are sick as we invest in finding cures so people don't get sick in the first place. It makes no sense. We can fix this. How about modernizing democracy so everyone can vote online? And how about personalizing education so everyone can learn? These achievements are all within our reach. Let's do them all in a way that gives everyone in our society a role. Let's do big things, not just to create progress, but to create purpose.